What I learned making hundreds of thousands of cold calls in my career. One of the key things, and it hasn't changed ever since, is your introduction is critical. Making sure the intro gets straight to it. Straight to the reason for my call is X.
Script, no script.
I always have a framework,
Okay.
but I rehearse.
So are you asking a question to them?
I bring a statement.
Go to your framework.
Yeah, so I bring a statement. So the reason for my call is X. Essentially why this matters is because of... In this episode, you're going to learn what I learned making hundreds of thousands of cold calls in my career.
That's a lot of bloody cold calls, Louis.
It's a lot of fun.
Let's take off a few zeros, but
maybe,
let's say...
maybe I did 100 calls.
No, you look, over the time, because you are quite old, even though you dye your hair colour, you've probably done around 10,000 calls, let's call it circa, right? I'd argue that not a lot has changed from your first call to now about you know, people answering if they're pissed off, in a shit mood.
Yeah.
Well, look, what have been let's go top 5.
All right, well, let's go back. Let's go back to one of the very first cold calls that I made. I literally worked in a boiler room type environment, and we didn't even have the person's name. Actually,
Hang on, could we go, what type of phone were you using? This will help set the scene.
It literally was a telecom. Fucking
It
hell.
wasn't one of those ones with the circles?
No, it was a touchpad, right?
Okay.
We had a touchpad, picked up the thing. We literally had to manually punch the number. We had a spruiker up the front. His name was, I can still remember his name, Paul.
spruiker? What's a spruiker?
A spruiker. The guy who used to work at...
Come on, boys, make another call.
Yeah. So on the weekends, he would work at the shopping centre
Yeah.
trying to get people to come in. He'd be like, you know,
You were at the fruit
50%
market.
off, blah,
Yeah,
blah,
there you go.
blah. And then he managed to call centre during the week. It was hardcore, man. Flinders Lane. Sorry, can we talk about this? Oh, we'll talk about it. It was Flinders Lane.
PG.
PG, all right. Flinders Lane. Our office, we were selling, it was Optus. We were trying to get people to convert from their current carrier, the home line, home service, right?
Yeah.
Next door was an outsourced company.
Yeah.
Okay. Next door was a strip joints head office.
Okay.
What is a strip joint? It's a male ballet club. Right? How do you call it?
We just lost 50% of our listeners. Yeah,
we lost it anyway. Where Barney Stinson goes from How I Met Your Mother, if you know How I Met Your Mother. Anyway, should we cut this? Is this not good? This is legit. So anyway, so there was we had literally 80 desks, little desks with phones, cords on the floor. It was probably the most non-compliant, work-safe place in Melbourne, in an office environment. Big whiteboard, numbers, and we literally had a list and a ruler and a pen and a phone. And, you know, during the day, we would literally see people go for interviews at the strip joint. So imagine, majority of the people on the phone were males, Dave. What did they do every time a person was going in? They would creep, look.
And we don't
Anyway, let's not go into
advocate for any of this
That's
stuff.
not what I learned making cold calls. But let's go back a step. So back, even that very first call, it didn't matter. We didn't have the name. We had Mr. and Mrs. S.J. Smith, for example. That's all we had.
So you didn't even have first name?
No. And so one of the key things, and it hasn't changed ever since, is your introduction is critical. You've got to make sure that you can clearly get to the point of why you're calling in the first sort of 10 to 15.
This is good, right? So this is no superior tech at the time. So there's no intent platforms telling you that they've just hired or whatever it is.
No trigger events, no data.
Have their first name.
No automation.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was literally saying, getting to the point of the reason for my call is X.
Okay.
Yeah, and that hasn't changed. If you look at, let's take last week's or 2 weeks call. Was it 2 weeks call?
Yeah, 2 weeks.
Where Dave and I built a new
Fast
ICP.
Track, 20 years from those
Fast
archaic
track,
times.
built an ICP. We've got our ideal customer profile, got the persona, built out a listing sales navigator really quick, enriched the data with Lucia. Our friends at Lucia helped us enrich that data, picked up the phone because we're testing the script, and bang, got the chief revenue officer, large payments platform. Reason for my call is X. This is why you should be, this is why you should care about this. These are some things that we've done with others like you. Doesn't make sense for us to catch up. It's essentially what the framework of the call was. Bang, booked a meeting.
It was really relevant. It was very about them.
Correct.
Right? About that, especially that individual in their goal for their career, the career.
Yeah,
right?
and there was 2 triggers. Recently hired in the role, 60 days in the role, 45 days in the role and they acquired another business, right? So there are two triggers. So why are the triggers important? So if you take it back from the very first call that I had back when I was 18 years old to today, the difference is we've got some information that can help us create a valid business reason for calling. So making sure the intro gets straight to it, straight to the reason for my call is X, okay? Leveraging a trigger. If you can't find a trigger, then you use essentially, this is again what I've learned, use an industry-based problem that you know the majority of the people that you're calling have, and then think about the value that you can exchange. It's another big key takeaway.
So you've done some prep?
Yep, you've got your prep done.
Right, so if you don't have any hardcore insight, what I mean by, that individual had just changed roles and they acquired a business, you're doing a industry-specific problem.
Correct.
Because of your research that you've done.
Because you need a reason. Why are you calling? Like if you're accepting the call, like
script, no script, what do you do? Guardrails?
I always have a framework.
Okay.
But I rehearse. And you've heard it. I did it with you that day.
Yep.
I went through it before I picked up the phone. Again, things that I've learned making thousands of cold calls is practice before you execute.
It's almost like doing a warm-up set before 100%. You go into,
just hear how it sounds. Like, does it sound? Could you use it? Like, obviously, when you write it down on paper and you do a script, you're like, oh my God, I've got to stick to these words. But just practice before you jump on the phone, okay? Again, create a framework for yourself. You got to have your intro. You got to have kind of a couple of questions that you might ask or some of the objections that they might bring up. You can bring up first, and then have a very clear next step of what you want to achieve from the call. But I think the big thing that we've got to ask ourselves, because we all receive calls, is just remember a couple of key takeaways. Got to have a reason. There's got to be a reason for somebody reaching out. As long as that reason is clear, then we've got to ask the question, what's in it for me to listen? As the person receiving this information, what will I get out of it?
So are you asking a question to them to elicit that? Like, what is your sort of...
I bring a statement.
Go to your framework.
Yeah, so I bring a statement. So the reason for my call is X. Essentially why this matters is because of why. And I don't say to those exact words. I say, hey, Dave, reason for my call, understand you're just starting the role and you guys have just acquired a business, right? I've got some insight into what other leaders like yourself are doing in this space to achieve X result, given the work I've done with company A and B, because that company's similar to them.
Yep.
Right, do you have a couple of minutes now to chat? When would be a better time for us to put some time in the calendar?
That second part of that of, do you have time now or chat later? Do you often find that people give you the time right then and there, or from let's call it a circa database of 1,000 calls, or are they going to that objection and trying to book a time and then don't book a time?
9 times out of 10, they say, sorry, what's his call about?
Okay,
honestly,
even though you've already said that.
Because people, I think the other big takeaway from making thousands of calls is people don't often listen to your initial introduction.
Okay.
Because even for inbound, like this is a bit of a, people mistake this, that even if I put an inbound inquiry in, and again, we've had this conversation so many times, Dave, I'm doing something. So I put an inbound inquiry or you're making an outbound call. The person you're ringing isn't just sitting there twiddling their thumbs waiting for their phone to ring. They're doing something. So they're thinking, their thought pattern is allocated to something else. Think about even when your kids ring or your wife rings, you answer the phone, they're talking to you, you're kind of not really dialed into what they're saying, right? Because you're thinking about something else. You've got to break that preoccupation. You've got to break that level of thought, right? Some experts will talk about a pattern interrupt, which stops that and gets them what? Sorry, what are you saying? But by asking, I use do you have time now or later? They're like, hang on a second, what's it about?
So now are you repeating the initial statement?
And then I have a different statement. It's about enabling your team to generate more pipe, given a lot of inbound is slowing down and you still have a target that you need to meet. That's an example, right?
Yeah.
Like if you know that for that audience, inbound leads are dropping and you know that sales teams are struggling to create pipeline. For any chief revenue officer, that's hot topic for them, right? We know that. We know that right now the cost per acquisition is blowing out because paid ads and paid media and organic is sort of kind of shifting, right? So self-generation of pipeline, especially in the B2B space, is massive. We know this. We've been doing this for years, yeah? So if we know that's a problem, or if you have another reason, you've got to leverage that reason. It's about the uplift in performance that you're talking about, yeah? It's not about I have a product or service that I want to talk to you about, because they're not after that product or service. They might be, but only a small amount of people are looking for what you sell at the time.
Correct.
But what they are looking for is an improvement in performance most of the time. If you know that and then say it's about this level of insight that I can give you around this topic that we know a lot of leaders, know a lot of people like yourself are trying to tackle, that's what I'm here to give you. Because everything is an exchange. That's the other learning that I've had from making so many calls, is that we can't expect somebody to give us time if we can't give them anything in value back. So the whole premise of the call is about helping them see that, you know what, if I meet with this person, I'm going to get something of value that will justify me giving them time. Because time, once they give it, it's gone. And the question that I often ask sellers, Dave, is think about it. If you're asking a CFO or CMO that's getting paid a good chunk of change to give you half an hour, and you kind of reverse engineer what that's worth to them in their time perspective, what the business is paying for that time, it could be $100, $200, depending on their role, right? So what are you giving them for that much money?
Yeah, it needs to be of
It's
5,
got to be
10x
something
value.
of value,
That's
right?
Yeah.
So hence why one of my final statements is the statement around, Dave, regardless if we move forward or not post that call, I will give you some tangible insight about this particular topic that you can at least walk away and think differently about how to tackle. So what I'm trying to say to them is there is really no loss in meeting with me. Like, you're going to walk away with something of value. Yeah. And again, if we look at the data for the calls that I make, getting kind of 15 to 25% conversion off calls, right? And it's not because I'm a fantastic cold caller, because I do stutter. I do, mate. You've heard me on the phone.
Yeah, but it shows that you're
right?
human.
Yeah, like I haven't had no issue making mistakes on the phone call. Because the other thing, the biggest takeaway from all the calls I make, Dave, to date, even if you make a mistake, they hang up, the outcome seems at the time the worst, there's always another person you can call, right?
Yeah.
And I've done it. I mean, I have literally trialed. I've called the CEO of the second biggest bank in Australia. He picked up the phone after a number of attempts. He wasn't happy to hear from me. The call didn't go as well as I thought it would.
What were you selling him?
Well, they were going through the Royal Commission, and it actually spoke about ethical selling. So I thought, perfect. I'll talk about enabling his team to do ethical sales. He didn't see it that way. And it didn't go the way that I planned. But there's always another call that you can make, right? This is the biggest takeaway. Like, doesn't matter. If you have a bad call, get over it. Like, they're going to forget who you are within seconds.
Yeah, that's right.
Just forget about it, learn from it, pick up the phone, do it again, and do it again. Because the great thing about this is the more calls you make, the more people that hang up, that reject you, that say no, the closer you will get to somebody that will accept the conversation to meet.